A chaotic scene this morning outside a St. Paul business after an apparent raid by federal agents. Hundreds of protesters gathered at the scene, growing increasingly agitated. Federal agents wearing Homeland Security and Drug Enforcement Agency vests held them back. At one point, the agents used mace to control some of the people in that crowd. Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Julie Nelson.
And I'm Rena Sargentopoulos. There are still a lot of questions tonight about what led to that dramatic scene. ICE telling us it was serving a search warrant as part of a federal investigation, but has not shared any other details.
We first learned about the operation at about 9:30 this morning at the Brotex building on Hampden Avenue. That's just north of University Avenue in the South St. Anthony Park neighborhood. Right now, of course, the scene is much quieter. Tonight, we're learning more about what happened once the agents arrived and from family members of workers who are left searching for answers.
We do have team coverage tonight. Morgan Wolf, a hearing from those confused community members. But we begin with Joe McCoy breaking down the clash between the protesters and the agents. Joe.
Well, Rena, I want to start by saying that we do not know the legal status of the people who were detained this morning. This clash between hundreds of protesters and federal agents lasted for more than an hour. At sometimes, protesters were even thrown to the ground as they tried to block federal vehicles from leaving.
Cowards!
Emotions reaching a boiling point as hundreds of protesters clashed with federal agents this morning outside of Brotex paper manufacturing facility in St. Paul.
I just think it's an atrocity to be removing people from their families and separating people and disappearing them.
USA!
Homeland Security investigations agents alongside DEA and ICE officers deploying tear gas and spraying mace as protesters tried to block federal vehicles from leaving.
Where are you bringing them?
Things turned physical as tensions rose even higher.
I just feel devastated.
Jesus Trejos says his dad was detained by ICE agents.
They keep doing this. They're going to be breaking apart lots of families, and they'll see the outcome of what they've done, what they're truly taking away.
One woman in agony after being sprayed by mace.
It's scary.
This is obviously not America.
In a statement, ICE says this raid was, quote, court-authorized law enforcement activity and served a search warrant in furtherance of a federal criminal investigation. Mayor Melvin Carter says St. Paul Police was not involved in any way, and his office had no prior knowledge of the raid.
We work hard to make sure that folks know that our St. Paul police officers are not and will not ever be ICE agents. That's not the work that we do. And we've worked hard to make sure that folks know that we'll never criminalize somebody's identity.
This is our reality that we now live in.
Eric Odinez says he has family members who work at Brotex, and he is unsure if ICE agents detain them.
I have 4 family members in there. My mom worked there. I call it a divine signal that she didn't come into work today. Because if she would have been taken out, I would have lost my mind.
Right now, we do not know why a federal criminal investigation was being conducted here this morning or how many people were detained by ICE. However, a man who has family members that work here at Brotex tells us that he believes roughly a dozen people were detained. Julie.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Well, the community also responding to the raid tonight. Morgan Wolf continues our team coverage with some of their perspectives. Morgan?
Yeah, Julie, as you heard it there, Joe's report, family members here were outside when all of this was unfolding this morning, and some of them told me that they just feel heartbroken, but they are very confused about what is going on as they are continuing to search for some answers. Now, we heard from Eric just a little bit ago. Let me elaborate a little bit more on what he told me. He said today he is a U.S. citizen, but told me again that his mom worked here for 25 years. Again, he was thankful that she was not at work today, but his 2 uncles and cousins were. He was told that someone was taken away. Now, we don't know the status of their citizenship. He was not told where they would be going or why they were taken. The man, though, he went on to share a story with me, reflecting on the workers at Brotex, saying that when he was diagnosed with cancer, his mother's coworkers helped take care of his family, covering shifts and doing what they could to help them. Here's what else he is saying about how he's feeling tonight.
Anger, disappointment. Our country needs help. This isn't the way to do things. The Latino community does not do anything but work. We are not the criminals that you think we are.
I spoke with someone also with the Minnesota Immigration Rights Action Committee. They had a number of members here today. They say that immigrants in our communities here are fearful for their undocumented loved ones and friends. Hear more about what he has to say coming up on Breaking the News. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Morgan.